Welcome back in. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Today, we're going to be discussing Jahmyr Gibbs and his 2023 fantasy outlook. So, if you look at Jahmyr Gibbs right now, currently, he is coming off the board at RB17 or 44th overall. He stands 5'9", 199 pounds, but he is an absolute electric playmaker with his 4.36 speed and 91st percentile speed score. Last season at Alabama, he had 151 carries, 926 rushing yards, 44 receptions for 444 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns. He was also 8th in yards per route run. There's a lot to like here with Jahmyr Gibbs' profile. Now, obviously, the size is definitely always going to be a concern. Is he going to be somebody that is more like a Austin Eckler or Jamar Charles type, or is he going to end up being like a CJ Spiller, Reggie Bush type of running back? That is yet to be seen, and one of the biggest questions that we need answered. But obviously, with the draft capital being picked 12th overall by the Detroit Lions, is certainly a positive indicator of what they feel about. They're going to give him every opportunity to not be just a one-dimensional, receiving back in the NFL. So, with that being said, I think when you look at the situation this year, you have David Montgomery, who they brought into a decent contract, but really everything else in terms of the pass catching work that he's going to be able to be there is definitely there. You have Jameson Williams, who's suspended for the first 6 weeks. They brought back Marvin Jones. Josh Reynolds is still there. Obviously, Amon-Ra Brown, who is a dog, is still there. And then they also have Sam Laporta, who they drafted this year as well. But really, there's no real past Amon-Ra Brown. And so I think that's where Jahmyr Gibbs comes in. And I think, projecting probably 80, 90 targets, I definitely think is in the range of possibilities for him. The real question mark is going to be in the carries department. I think it's much more likely he's probably comes in around 130 to 140 carries this year, which limits his upside a little bit. So it's really going to come down to efficiency for him, how efficient he can be as a runner, the projected volume in terms of the targets, because I do think David Montgomery is going to be the guy who's going to get all of the early down work and the goal line work. Now, if you look at this backfield last year when it was Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, now we know the biggest problem with DeAndre Swift has always been his health. But when he's been healthy, he's definitely been a very solid fantasy running back. Last season, Detroit was a running back stat factory last year, leading the league with 27 rushing touchdowns. They also ranked 5th in RB carries and 9th in RB targets. Now, if you look at Swift over his last 2 seasons, he's seen 5 or more targets in 17 of his 27 games over the last 2 years. And that is a lot of it with TJ Hockenson and Amon-Ra Brown. Now, if you look at Swift as a whole and what he's done, 9.25 carries per game, 5.5 targets, and a 16.5% target share. Now, a lot of that, has been a lot of injuries that have come and have really reduced the amount of touches that he's seen, because last year he only had 99 carries, but he had 70 targets last year with a 36.9% opportunity share. I think that number is going to be higher for Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, how much higher we'll see. I think we can be talking about, something where he sees 45 to 50% of the opportunities from this backfield, and David Montgomery sees the lion's share of the rest. One other really good factor here for Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be this offensive line. This offensive line is absolutely elite. Last year, they ranked 7th in adjusted line yards, 6th in second level rank. And PFF ranked them 9th in terms of run blocking and 22nd in pass blocking. And this year, heading into 2023, PFF ranks them as the 5th overall offensive line unit in the league, which is also obviously very good for Jahmyr Gibbs. I think the biggest question mark we're going to have to answer this year is just truly how much opportunity is going to be before him. I've seen a lot of people say that he's Alvin Kamara. He's not Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is a much bigger running back than what Jahmyr Gibbs is. In my opinion, I think you're probably looking at, like I said, 130, 140 carries, 800 rushing yards, I think is in the range of possibilities, 4 to 6 rushing touchdowns. And I think anywhere from probably 70 to 80 receptions is definitely in the range of possibilities. And then I think somewhere in the 5 to 700 receiving yard range. And that is 700 being at the very absolute high of that. And then probably 2 or 3 receiving touchdowns. So I think that when we look at him, I think that he can be a guy that could finish as like a low end RB1. I think that's in the range of possibilities. There's definitely some question marks here with Jahmyr Gibbs. If he stays where he's going and he's coming off the board at RB17, I have no problem taking a shot on him there. But if he were to slide up higher than that, and he ends up being a guy who gets a lot of praise and a lot of hype and training camp and then into the preseason, and he starts going as like a top 12 running back, I would have to be out on that, because I just don't think he has that type of touch ceiling with David Montgomery there. You look at Jamal Williams last year in this offense, he had 51% of the opportunities. He had over 260 carries and 17 touchdowns. Now, the 17 touchdowns things I don't care about because that's not going to happen again for David Montgomery. But I definitely think he's going to see probably 250, 270 carries, and he's definitely going to be involved in the passing game as well. He is not a non-zero factor like Jamal Williams was in the passing game. I think we could see David Montgomery, probably see maybe 30 or 40 targets in this backfield as well. And so that is going to limit some of what Jahmyr Gibbs can do. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have to be ultra efficient, but we've seen him do that at Alabama. He was super efficient in Alabama. He was one of the most explosive runners we have seen, and he is one of the best pass catching running backs we have seen over the past 4 or 5 seasons. So the upside is certainly there, but I would also temper my expectations in thinking that he is going to be this locked in RB1. I don't think that's the case. So as long as his ADP doesn't get out of control, I'm a buyer of Jahmyr Gibbs, but only to a certain point. If he gets past, if he starts going into the second round, I'm probably going to be out. I would much rather take him in the third or fourth rounds at a PPR format. If he goes any higher than that, I'm probably out. Let me know in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on Jahmyr Gibbs in this year? Are you buying into the hype? And how high would you look to take him before you'd finally be out on him? Let me know in the comment section below. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.